The Abbotsford Canucks are one win away from the Calder Cup title. Beat Charlotte 3-2 tonight to take a 3-1 lead in the AHL final. Lots to talk about. Let's get into it. This is Rink Wide. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Studios on this Thursday night, a night that sees the Abbotsford Canucks creep that much closer to a Calder Cup championship. They hold off the Charlotte Checkers 3-2, the final score at the Abbotsford Center, 3-1. Abby up now in this best-of-7 final, and Earth on Saturday night could be party time out in the Fraser Valley. Another good victory for this Abbotsford team, and lots to get to here on Rink Wide.
Yeah, it was an exciting game. People definitely got their money's worth. Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, Arshdeep Baines making a case for the Jack A. Butterfield Trophy, Jeff.
A late charge.
I had to look up what it was, but there
doing
it is.
his homework.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rink Wide, as always, brought to you in part by Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION to get you started. And a reminder, you must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. The YouTube live chat is off and running, and we say it to you every show as we're creeping closer to the finish line here. We want you to take part. We want you to contribute to this program. We want your thoughts, so certainly we'll give you ours, but if you want a question or a comment to get right to the top of the queue, bring it, like the Canucks are these days. Hit us up with a super chat. Our charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. You mentioned it, Jonathan Lecker-Mackey. People were wondering, where was this guy? Why was he out of the lineup? A night like tonight, it makes you wonder, why was he out of the lineup? But he got the ball rolling a minute and 15 seconds into this hockey game. Perfect feed from Ty Mueller. And we know this much about the kid. He can shoot the puck. And he made no mistake, pulled the trigger. And, I mean, talk about picking up where this team left off the other night after the big third period, 5 goals in the third, 6 unanswered goals. They wanted to get the people into this game early, and they did just that. A minute and 15 seconds in. It was a pretty goal, and obviously a big one to set the tone for what was to come.
Yeah, and you tweeted out right after that goal that they had scored 12 of the last 16 goals in this series. And, you know, this Abbotsford Canucks team, they've been outshot every game in this series, except for game 3 where it was 29-29. But somehow, some way, they continue to find ways to win hockey games, making the most of their opportunity. And that Lecker-Mackey goal is just the start of this one.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big ways that they're finding opportunities is the guy in net, who has been sensational, spectacular. He was really good early in this hockey game. I mean, look, Charlotte wasn't going to go away. You knew that, and credit to them playing right to the final whistle. Made things a little bit interesting, but I'm not sure that the game was fully in doubt. They had 25 seconds left after they made it a 3-2 hockey game and really never threatened after that. But when the game was on the line, you look at the goaltending, and you look at the goaltending in this game, or if you look at the goaltending in this series, Artur Silovs has outplayed Kaapo Kähkönen, flat out, just bottom line, and the numbers bear that out as well. And you look at the Arshdeep Baines goal, and it brought people out of the seats. It was spectacular inside out on defenseman Matt Kiersted. But in that moment, it's 1-0 at the time, and we're watching the goal here on the live stream. All the credit to Baines. I mean, he does his part, but man, Charlotte needed a save in that moment. And that one goes right through the wickets. And at that point, it's 2-0 again. Party was on out of the Abbey Center. And I think the Canucks were feeling pretty good. You know, Arshdeep was. Yeah. That was a save, I think, that Charlotte had to have in that moment.
Well, I go back to how much time they've had off. And Artie's been playing. Artur Silovs has been playing. He's, every other night, basically. And you have a couple days off here and there. The Kähkönen has not played much since they swept Laval. Right. Yep. And then you have all of that time off, and then you end up, you're okay in game 1, you get a win there. And then obviously, you end up losing, and then you're coming here to Abbotsford and all sorts of things going on. You're not really in the groove of things. And that definitely it kind of showed there.
6-1 the other night, 3-2 the final here. So Abby has very much made the most of home ice advantage, outscoring Charlotte 9-3 in the 2 games. And now it all sets up for Saturday night. We talked about the fact that if Abbotsford could get the split in Charlotte, even though they were outplayed, look, those games, they're done. They're in the books, and they got the split. Wasn't pretty. Doesn't matter. They got what they were looking for in Charlotte and came that close overtime in game 2 to getting out of there with a 2. I mean, this thing could possibly be over, but it's not. And it could again on Saturday night. It's going to be the toughest ticket in town, 7,161. So they upped the ante by 109, if I'm not mistaken. Some quick math on the fly there. 7,161, the announced attendance. And look, I mean, they look like they're having fun. The home team is putting on a show for them. 15 wins in the playoffs. And even though there's an extra round, it still takes 16 to get your hands on this cup like it does the Stanley Cup. And so Abbotsford has reached the threshold now. They've got 15 wins. And you know what's remarkable about Artur Silovs is he had 14 wins in the American Hockey League regular season. Now, he spent a lot of time in the National Hockey League, but he posted 14 regular season wins. Artie's got all 15 in goal for Abbotsford here in the postseason, has played all but a couple of periods and a few minutes of overtime in the second round against Coachella Valley when he got the hook, but was put right back in by Manny Malholtra, and there has been no looking back. Jonathan Lekkerimäki, 2 goals, so he's up to 3 here in the playoffs. His second one that made it 3-0, and it kind of looked like maybe the floodgates were going to open again with another big third period. Well, that one turns out to be the game winner.
Yep.
Off the rush, pretty play, shows the finish there, set up by Sammy Blais, and we mentioned the Archie Baines goal. So it was 1-0 after 1, 2-0 after 2. Abbotsford has been lights out, lockdown good when taking the lead to the third period. And again, it goes into the books as a 1-goal game, but Abby was in full control here. And so, yeah, I mean, terrific stuff for Lekkerimäki. 2 goals on 4 shots. You want to see this guy shooting the puck. That's when he's at his best. We know that about him. And it is interesting that, just over a week from the National Hockey League draft where we are expecting fireworks involving the Vancouver Canucks, but a bunch of teams are starting to see trades around the National Hockey League. You would imagine that a 2-goal night to give Abbotsford a 3-1 lead in the Calder Cup would probably reverberate around the hockey world. People wanted to see Jonathan Lekkerimäki step up and do this kind of thing. And so good for him and good for them.
He was trending in Canada,
I saw
Jeff.
that, yes.
And
a social media giant.
Well, and I think the biggest thing with Jonathan Lekkerimäki is, we said, is he going to be confident enough? Is he going to get his shot back? Is he going to be a guy that, is going out and going to the areas where he can't put the puck in the net? Well, 2 goals plus 2, 4 shots on net and a post. He also hit the post too. So he was flying. He was all over the ice. He was put in positions to succeed, as we mentioned, obviously after game 3. But this guy's well on his way, right? And if the Canucks are going to win on Saturday, they're gonna need Jonathan Lekkerimäki to have a performance like he did here in game 4. And I think overall the big picture of it, yes, he's a Canucks prospect. He's a highly touted Canucks prospect. And people are watching and people want to trade him. And the fact that he was sitting out and all these people on the internet saying that, it was asset management. No, he's playing in these games. Either they don't have a trade. They don't have anything like that sort of ready for when this is over. This kid's going to help them win a Calder Cup if they in fact do that. And they're going to need him to do it. And I think that right now, sitting out those 5 games, he was probably pissed off.
Sure.
Guarantee you he was upset that he wasn't. And as soon as he got back into the lineup, Jeff, it was instant impact right away.
I like the fact that both his goals are 5-on-5 as well. We talked about putting him in there. We wondered after 2 games, not many shots. They had 13 shots in that game 2 overtime loss. I had a power play in overtime, didn't do anything with it. And we thought, all right, if nothing else, there have been lots of penalties in the first couple of games. Put him in and let him be on the power play. And he was on the power play.
Yep.
And he was shooting on the power play as well. Abbotsford had a couple of first period power plays and didn't score. Abby goes 0 for 4. This is one of those rare nights where Charlotte ends up winning the special teams battle, but they didn't win the war, and they've got the work cut out for them now, down 3-1. But Charlotte did score a power play goal, which is an achievement in and of itself, particularly considering the venue. That's the first power play goal on home ice that Abbotsford has allowed in these playoffs. This is their 12th home playoff game. You talk about airtight and lockdown. They've been that good, and Charlotte had 3 first-period power plays. When I talked about Artur Silovs, he gives up 2, but he outplays the guy at the other end of the ice. But when they needed him, he was dialed in, and I thought was on his game. Made it look easy. He's been terrific in the playoff run here. And you do wonder. I was thinking about this as I was driving in here to the studio. It's been a long season. We know how it started. Artur Silov's got the opening night start for the Vancouver Canucks way back on October the 9th against Calgary. Let a big lead get away and ended up losing that night in overtime. But the way that he's playing now, I wonder if this Artur Silovs could gain the trust of Rick Tocchet. He won't have to worry about that. Tocchet's not here anymore. But we know, as like after Four Nations, when Thatcher Demko was still hurt, Rick Tocchet just didn't trust Artur Silovs, right? Like he didn't believe in this guy, would barely play him. We know the story that the only 2 wins all season were against the Chicago Blackhawks. This guy right now, and again, it's the American Hockey League, and you have to keep context matters here, but the way that he's playing now looks nothing like the guy that had no confidence at the NHL level.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of echo that a little bit, Rob, the siding guy, hit me up on X and said the run has been so great. The best part of Silovs will play his last game in Abbotsford ever on Saturday. This guy will be an NHL player now for good, wherever he may be playing next season. I'm going to go back to what you said. Context does matter. American League and the NHL are 2 completely different entities. Olympic Artie, we know that. Like, he's got a lot of good juju going for him right now.
Yep.
Once this is all said and done, if they win, which in fact they're well on their way to doing that, he also needs to have a big summer, right? He needs to come in and prove that he can do this at the NHL level. Will he get a chance in training camp? Absolutely. He probably will. Whether that ends up being in Vancouver, that also still remains to be seen. So it's an interesting problem to have right now for the Vancouver Canucks as an organization, but you're right. Would he earn the trust of Rick Tocchet? And I think that's the number one thing. The number 2 thing is, let's focus here on the Abbotsford Canucks. I want to go back to what you said about the PK at home. Can you repeat it again for people so people can actually grasp how good it is?
12th home game of this playoff run, and the first power play goal that they gave up, Kyle Criscolo, made it 3-1 midway through the third period. Off the rush was a pretty goal. Silovs really didn't have a chance there. Some nice passing by the Charlotte Checkers. But yeah, 12 home playoff games, and this is it. The first time that they've been beaten for a power play goal.
You know, it's pretty good on the PK. And in his time in the NHL, their head coach.
Oh, Manny
Malholtra, yeah.
Well, he's got some guys that are certainly stepping up. And obviously your goaltender has to be your best penalty killer, and that's been the case. But you look at the guys like Chase Waters and Ty Mueller and Guillaume Brisebois and Jet Wu, and these are some of the guys, Phil DiGiuseppe. They're the guys that do the bulk of the heavy lifting on the penalty kill, and they have been sensational. We mentioned the home ice, the 12 home games. Abbotsford's now 10-2 on home ice. So
wild.
And they've won 5 in a row. You go back to took care of business at home against Texas, obviously eliminated Texas in the home game, and have started this one with back-to-back wins in this series now. And they're up 3-1. So Saturday, 6 o'clock. Note the start time. It's an hour earlier. And perhaps that'll allow people to party a little later into the night. They can get the party started a little earlier if Abbotsford's able to get the job done. The way this thing is trending, they want no part of getting on a flight on Sunday and working their way to Charlotte, North Carolina again. Been there, done that. So opportunity definitely knocking for the Abbotsford Canucks, and we'll see what they can do. 6 o'clock on Saturday, game 5 of this series.
Outplayed game 1, lose. Or sorry, win.
Yeah.
Outplayed game 2, lose. Dominate game 3, and pretty much were in the driver's seat here in game 4 as well, for the most part. What do you think changed? You get so heavily outplayed out on the road, and then you come back and obviously home cooking and whatever, and you're comfortable playing in your own barn, but like you on the ice, what do you think changed for them?
I think the Canucks have found ways to spend more of the game in the Abbotsford end. Even the shot totals, like score effects in the third period, Charlotte had 16 of its 34 in the third. Mm-hmm. So obviously they go to the room, they're down 2-0. You know that they're going to push, and they did, but Abbotsford was able to extend the lead there. I just think the 2 home games, you've seen Abbotsford's best players outplay Charlotte's best players, and Abbotsford's got better goaltending. I mean, that's a pretty good combination at this time of the year, quite frankly. And I would think if you ask the Charlotte head coach, he'd say he's a little disappointed in his big guns. Like, they really haven't been heard from. John Leonard was their leading scorer coming into this series. He picks up a second assist on that second goal, essentially a stat patter at that point of the hockey game. But Justin Sordoff, who I liked in the games in Charlotte, he's been pretty quiet. He got an assist on the late goal as well. I mean, it reached the point, Irv, that Charlotte injected 2 rookies that were playing college hockey, like up until the end of their college seasons, have just turned pro, and they're not getting enough out of it. Like Will Lockwood, one of the familiar names, doesn't have a point in this series, 4 games in.
Yeah.
Jesse Puljujärvi with NHL credentials has been a complete non-factor for the Charlotte Checkers. And they've got other guys that they look to. You know, they're a balanced team. They spread their scoring around. They don't lean on 1 or 2 guys, but the guys that you would consider their go-to guys. Trevor Carrick had 50 points as a defenseman this season in the American Hockey League. Doesn't have a point in this series so far. So I would just say that Abbotsford's done a better job of sort of dealing with the pressure. Charlotte was all over them on the forecheck in the first couple of games. I don't know if it's the ice conditions that allow Abbotsford to play its game a little bit more on home ice, but certainly they're feeding off the home crowd as well and getting leads, although they gave up the first goal the other night and then rattled off 6 in a row. Yeah. Here tonight, they opened the scoring and they were able to build on that. Hugo Mugo with his usual super chat. He sets the tone here. Be like Hugo, people. Make a contribution to the BC Mental Health Foundation. Hugo says, Lecker stepping up big time. Another arty party. Thanks for the show. Willie the Scotsman says, Blais and Sherwood could be an absolute wrecking crew. Sammy Blais was at it again. Another just thunderous hit on the end boards. Tristan Nielsen had a similar one. Same spot on the ice both times. Charlotte, we're showing the Blais one on the live stream, just staples the Checkers defender. And he's done that throughout the playoffs. I don't know if he could do that at the NHL level on the regular, but I've said it before. I do think that Sammy Blais will play NHL games again, whether it's in the Vancouver organization. He's on an AHL contract that expires, so he's going to be a free agent here. And I just wonder, like when I think of, you know, they brought Sam Lafferty in last season and a guy like Nils Amon, although I'm on a center, I guess some utility there. But I think they could do worse than Sammy Blais on a 4th line and just tell him to go nuclear and basically hit everything that moves. And the crowd in Abbey loves him. The crowd downtown would love him if he was able to play that way. I mean, this guy's been a Stanley Cup winner with the St. Louis Blues early in his career. But man, is he fun to watch. And he picked up the assist on the second Lecker goal. So it's not just Sammy Blais running around hitting everything that moves. He's got 6 points in 4 games in this series as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun when you see his wires get crossed a little bit. Like he just goes after people. And yeah, he's taken a couple penalties that probably he shouldn't have taken throughout these playoffs. But for the most part, if you're going to hit people and you're going to impact the game a certain way, Kiefer Sherwood does a really good job of that and not hurting his team. Sammy Blais is doing that as well, not hurting his team. He's got 13 assists this year, 14 assists now in the Calder Cup playoffs. It's near the top of the list there when it comes to assist leaders for these playoffs. So good for him. I agree with you. I think if it's not here, it's going to be somewhere, and good for him to be able to go and do that, want to prove yourself on an AHL deal. And, you know, now you are.
Michael Chow in the chat says, even if he doesn't stick with Vancouver, I'm sure some other NHL team will find Blais useful. Again, I do think that he's going to get a look in the National Hockey League, just as consistent as he's been here throughout these playoffs. And he would come cheap, right? I don't think he's got a lot of leverage here. He spent the entire season on an American Hockey League deal, but he wants to be back in the NHL. I remember talking to him at training camp in Penticton. He was motivated then, didn't get a look, didn't get the contract he was looking for, but he has been a leader, certainly, for this Abbotsford team through the regular season with all the changes and the guys that were going up and down, and then here in the playoffs as well. He's fun to watch and big-time character out there as well. And as we said, has become a massive fan favorite. We're going to get to our usual features here, 3 stars. We'll have our stat that stands out. Going to hear from Manny Malholtra after this one as well. But, you know, one of the things I think that has changed too is, and certainly tonight, Abbotsford was way more physical than Charlotte. Like, I can't remember a hit that really jumps out at me. And there were a few there. We showed the highlights, but they weren't alone. I think Abbotsford found a way to ratchet up the physical side of the game. And if you're Charlotte and you're, you know, some of those offensive guys that we talked about, you know, Abbotsford's done a nice job of making life difficult on them. Like when they hop over the boards, they know that there's going to be a price to pay to win battles on the sideboards, to get down low in the Abbotsford end. Like you're going to get punished. And you just wonder if sort of Abbotsford has been able to sort of squeeze the will out of this Charlotte team. I'm not writing them off yet. They're the Eastern Conference champs. They've won once in this series. I would expect that you'll see the best that they've got on Saturday. But even at that, it may not be enough if their best players don't step up and produce, and if Artur Silovs continues to dial it up the way that he has. Charlotte playing better may not be enough for them. I mean, again, it's right there now. The Abbotsford Canucks can taste it.
We talk a lot about getting better as the series goes on.
Yep.
And Abbotsford has gotten better in every facet of the game. Offensively, defensively, goaltending, special teams, the physicality, like you just mentioned. And I think that probably is one of the biggest things for them. You know, you get outplayed so heavily in games 1 and 2, and then you figure something out and you make adjustments. And credit to Manny Malholtra and his staff for being able to make those adjustments, but also the guys playing to implement the system, to, you know, be more physical, to know that the Charlotte players are going to get punished every time they step over the boards. And that first goal, like, it wasn't a goal that was out of nothing. That started in their own end of the ice. Clean breakout all the way down to a 2-on-1 and a beautiful finish by Jonathan Lekkerimäki.
Absolutely. There's that name again. Let's get to the 3 stars. And then the stat that stands out is a good one tonight. I have fun sort of playing with the numbers. Some nights, maybe it doesn't tell a full story. I like the stat that stands out. So we'll get to it momentarily here. But first things first, 3 stars. They're brought to you by Greta Bar YVR, all the big screens, great place to watch sports. And of course, they want you to know that they're big on team building and summer social events as well. I think it's officially summer here on Friday, I believe. So there you go. If you're looking to get your group out of the office, a little bit of corporate fun, or maybe you got a ball team or some other group that you want to place together, consider Greta. All the arcade games, street food menu, the weekly drink specials. Greta Bar, the place to be. 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar. Let the games begin. All right, the 3 stars in the rink. Clean sweep for the Abby Canucks. No problem with that. Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Artur Silovs, and Arshdeep Bain. So the goal scorers and the goaltender. We certainly consider that, but as you can see, I made Jacob work a little bit. He had to find a headshot for Jack Devine. Divine intervention, they were hoping so, but he played well. He was in on both of their goals. Rookie thrown in and looked all right, but there's Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Speaking of rookies, 2 goals, including the game winner, and those 4 shots. So a big night for Jonathan Lekkerimäki, first-star honors. That's probably the biggest part of his night. The goals are great, the shots, all that. The game went first star on Rink Wide. Come on. Well, doesn't get a whole lot better than that. Artur Silovs has basically been locked into our 3 stars.
I was going to say.
So when I say we're making Jacob work behind the scenes, it's because he's got time on his hands. Yeah. We just leave Artie there. We just move him around. It's like the shell game. Where is he going to show up? We'd have to go back and look how many games he's been a star here on Rink Wide in this playoff run. And there's Jack Devine. That is what he looks like. So 3 stars here on Rink Wide, brought to you by Greta. Edward in the chat says 72nd and Scott Road in Surrey. It's going bananas right now. Saturday, it's going to be awesome for hardcore Canuck fans, of course. The Vancouver Canucks have never won a championship in 55 years of existence, and we know that Travis Green got his Utica Comets to the AHL final, but they were the second best team there. Manchester was the better team, ended up winning that one. So here we go. Manny Malholtra, his coaching staff, and these Abbotsford Canucks on the verge of doing something that this franchise has never seen in its existence. So pretty exciting times. And 1 win away. All right. We're going to hear from Manny momentarily, but let's get to the stat that stands out because I've crafted this one. I've put some work into this one. Stat that stands out. Brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. They've been on an amazing run of their own. They're out of the road right now, but they'll be back at the Nats soon. Next homestand starts on Tuesday. That's June 24th against Tri-City. And that run of home games includes another fireworks night on the 26th, the Marvel Superhero Day at the ballpark. Sounds like some fun on the 28th for the full game schedule, the promo schedule, and for tickets, check out CanadiansBaseball.com. All right. My own little drum roll here.
Okay.
The stat that stands out. The Abbotsford Canucks have only 5 regulation losses in their last 40 hockey games.
Again?
Regular season and playoffs. They finished the regular season on a 16-1-1 run. And here in the playoffs now, 15-7. And in the playoffs, overtime losses don't matter. They don't go in a separate column. It's just, did you win or did you lose? But in terms of how difficult this Abbotsford team has been to beat outright, you break them down, 31-5-4 in their last 40 games. So this playoff run absolutely started back in March when They got locked in. They got on a roll. They got the good juju going, as you like to say. They had the 13-game win streak. And really, when you think about that, like the number of guys that were shuttling between the big club, Manny was left with patchwork. They were trying to find guys to play. And the guys that were there and the constants and the veterans, like that's a salute to those guys for holding down the fort and getting on this run. And there's just been no looking back.
And I think one of the biggest things is Abbotsford and Manny are setting an example for the big club in a sense of you need to be playing your best hockey at a certain point in the season. And with this, obviously, this stat that we have, incredible stat, great work. I'm going to ask you about their projection through an 82-game season after I finish with this. But no, I'm just saying the way that they shuttle players back and forth, the way they went about their business, they got into playoff mode and locked in March. There were meaningful games for this hockey team all the way through the 13-game win streak. And then you come into the playoffs and you have to play more games than everybody else. Yep. And now in the final, they've hit their stride once again.
And the deeper you go in the playoffs, you're playing better opponents. You know, like that's just incredible stuff. So absolutely hats off to everybody top to bottom in the organization. You know, that's not a good couple of weeks. This is basically 3 months now, 40 games, a half a season of hockey essentially, and they've lost 5 times in regulation. And to your point about, I mean, basically it is, Saturday will be 41 games since the start of that win streak. So that would be a half a season of NHL hockey. They're on a pace that would have them with like 135 points. And again, playoff hockey, you're playing the best of the best as you go deeper here. It's wild. Absolutely wild. Another super chat. This one from Adam. Says, love and Abby, as we all are, and we've had a ton of fun here. Their 22nd game of the postseason, 15-7 now on this playoff run. So, Adam, thanks for the contribution to the BC Mental Health Foundation. All right, let's hear from the head coach, who has remained even keel throughout, and I wouldn't imagine that'll change. It might change on Saturday if they get the result they're looking for, but here and now, this is Manny Malholtra after his team's 3-2 win to take a 3-1 lead in the Calder Cup Final.
Manny, I guess we'll just get started. What did you like most from your group tonight?
I think the way we started the game, we continuously talk about wanting to start on the front foot and apply pressure on teams. Obviously, the first 2 games they carried play as far as that, setting the tempo. So I like the start of our game, just establishing our forecheck and making plays early, and when we had opportunities to capitalize, we did.
And from Jonathan Lekarmaki, 2 goals tonight. Obviously, he's been in and out throughout the playoffs, but for him to step up in a game like this, how impressed were you with the performance tonight?
To me, that sums up Lecky. The kid has ice in his veins. He doesn't shy away from these big moments, and you could see tonight he had 2 quality looks, and he made them count. So that kind of sums up the type of player that he is when given the opportunity and put in the right spot. He'll make good.
Prior to this series, a lot of the guys talked about these 3 games at home being something they were so excited for, and almost kind of just looking for a split to start in Charlotte. The way you guys have played here on home ice throughout the playoffs, what's the confidence level like going into this 3rd game now of the series?
Well, from day one of the season, we continuously talked about wanting to take advantage of playing on home ice. And throughout the season, obviously, we earned the opportunity to do that throughout the playoffs until this series. So we wanted to make the most of the 3 games that we were going to have here. And then most importantly, it's so much fun for the guys just playing in front of this crowd. The building was electric again, and they definitely feed off of that. So it's very special for our guys to play in front of the fans, and we get a big boost out of it.
Not only are you playing well, but it seems like the shot blocking and getting sticks in lanes in the defensive zone, I mean, that seems to really have frustrated Charlotte. I mean, how much of a point of emphasis was that after giving up so many shots in the first 2 games on the road?
Well, obviously the shot totals is something that we wanted to prioritize in terms of limiting the number of chances they had. And I think the block shots and getting in lanes just speaks to the commitment that our guys have right now. They're willing to do anything to win at this point, which is what we need. So that was just on full display tonight. Guys laying out, blocking shots, and with any body part they can, they're willing to get in those lanes.
And how do you prepare a team? Now you're on the verge of a championship. You have a chance to do it on home ice. I mean, how do you mentally prepare your team for that kind of opportunity?
we'll continue to prepare like we have the first 4 rounds and throughout this round. We're going to enjoy the victory tonight. We'll analyze the video and clean up things that we want to improve on. But tomorrow we'll turn the page and just have that next game mentality that has gotten us to this point.
There you go. That's the even-keeled Manny Malholtra that we talked about, although had high praise for Jonathan Lecker-Mackey and just the overall work of his group to get the job done here and to put this team on the verge of a Calder Cup championship. The coach's comments post-game, a presentation of the Pacific Toyota dealers who want to tell you about the Toyota BZ4X. It's 100% electric. It's backed by the peace of mind of knowing that it's a Toyota and that spark of joy you get when you pass the gas station knowing that you don't have to stop. There's the added perk of being able to access HOV lanes when driving in an EV, even when you're alone in the vehicle. It's got the cargo capacity for all of the camping gear, golf clubs, mountain bikes, you name it. You can get everything in there. And it can handle any terrain. I don't know if the mountain bikes can actually go in, but put a rack on the back. You get the point. It can handle any terrain. It can take you from the city to the slopes or wherever your life takes you. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get a $5,000 incentive. And right now, you can finance a 2025 BZ4X LE all-wheel drive from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. You know, it's funny. We have spent a lot of time talking about Archie Bains, who really has come on since the late stages of the Texas series. 6 goals now in the last 6 games. He's got 6 points in the 4 games here in this Calder Cup final. So leading by example, and they need it. Again, you need your best players. He is one of their best players, and he has done just that. But it is wild when we point out that 40-game stretch. That sort of goes back to the arrival of Jujhar Khaira.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the 40 games, it's not all on him. But he's been a terrific addition, just in terms of, you know, a veteran guy who's been through NHL battles, but was coming home. And I think embraced that opportunity to be a part and to be a leader on a team here as close to home as it is for a Surrey guy who, you know, growing up, the Abbotsford Canucks didn't exist. So it wasn't like he one day thought he would be an Abbotsford Canuck, but the opportunity presented itself and he has fit in seamlessly. And again, not a starring role at all, but just another guy that's pulling on the rope in the right direction here and has been a huge addition to what this group has been able to put together.
337 NHL games for Jujhar, right? And I think that another thing is the way his career has been up and down, right? Get traded from teams, go to different teams. You're going to be an AHL guy. You discover you're going to be an AHL guy. You thought your career was going to be ended a couple of times with some pretty bad concussions. And then, like you mentioned, you know, having the opportunity to come home and maybe in some weird sense, kind of a weight lifted off. You're playing free in a sense, and it maybe makes sense in my head a little bit, but you know, I think that's kind of the way that he's playing the game right now. You know, he's got family and friends that are attending every single game, you know, as do a lot of people here, or as does Archie Bains and everyone else who's from the Lower Mainland. But I think for him, it's, you know, he's a veteran guy. Guys look up to him in the locker room. He's a guy that's been through a lot, and you know, for him and everything that he's kind of been through in his career, feather in the cap to be able to win a Calder Cup, you know, championship would be huge for him. And I think that, you know, a lot of the guys do gravitate towards him a little bit just because of his experiences.
Irf, I'm here to tell you, it made perfect sense in my head too. Like he, as you said, like all those years of experience at the NHL level, he knew coming in here that expectations weren't high. Like he didn't have to be the star, even though this is a guy that's played in the NHL. He just had to come in and do those things that you want from a solid pro and lead by example. And he's done that. And he's a big body that's hard to handle on that line with Sammy Blais and Nate Smith for the most part. You know, they've done a lot of work, really good work down low in the offensive zone. And I mentioned some of the penalty killers. I think he's done some penalty killing for this team as well. So I just wanted to point that out. I had somebody in the chat that had mentioned Jujhar. We don't spend a lot of time talking about him. We don't go through the entire roster, but just sort of that unsung veteran presence again. And the people that are around this team on a daily basis, like you and I are doing this, but we're not out in Abbotsford, unfortunately, because it looks like a hell of a time out there right now. But the people that are around this group talk about, you know, there is something special just in the way that these guys have bonded over this second half of the season. And the proof is right there with a 3-1 lead now in the Calder Cup Championship. And again, we'll see if they can take care of business and hoist the trophy at home on Saturday. I'll be curious to see. We said 71-61 was the crowd. Can they, I don't know if there's, can they squeeze another 40 people in? Can they get it up to 7,200 on Saturday?
Every inch of that building is going to be used on
Fire
Saturday.
marshal will be keeping a pretty close eye, but no, I mean, it looks like they're having a ton of fun there, and why wouldn't they? And they've played a role, and Manny's talked about it as well, and so have the players, that they feed off that. And again, crowd exploded a minute and 15 seconds in after Lecker-Mackey opened the scoring and kind of built from there. So we'll see where things go. Of course, I mentioned earlier that we are working our way closer to the NHL draft. It's coming up at the end of next week. So we're basically a week away from this decentralized draft. We'll see what that looks like. Whatever the case, it's all going down. The draft's coming up next week, and the Sheet Draft Special is going live on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel Friday, June 27th at 4 o'clock Pacific. Hosted by Jeff Merrick, the Sheet Draft Special is going to bring you real-time coverage of the 2025 NHL Draft, diving into every pick as it happens, top prospects, surprise steals, team strategies. They'll be breaking down the entire night with expert analysis and insider insights. So don't miss the Sheet Draft Special live on June 27th, 4 o'clock Pacific on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Subscribe now so you do not miss a moment. Brought to you by the Nation Network. All right.
Holy sheet. Abbotsford's 1 win away.
Seriously. And we have seen Charlotte as the trailing team here. Their coach is sort of pulling out all the stops, going to young players, whatever. And it's just keep on keeping on if you're Manny Malholtra. And again, if everybody got through this game healthy, and there's no reason to think that they didn't, then I can't imagine that you would touch this lineup, same 18 skaters, and of course the no-brainer with Artie Silovs in goal on Saturday.
Yeah, no, you're not touching that. I think that is cemented in as to what the lineup will be for the Abbotsford Canucks. The alternative, like, what do you do if you're Charlotte? This is it, right? This is your game 7 for the next couple of games if you get past one. So the one thing to remember, the fourth one is always the hardest one to win in sports and in any sport. And anyone will tell you that. Obviously, Manny knows all too well about that as well. So the messaging from Manny to his group is going to be important, right? You can't get too cocky. You're nothing's done yet. You haven't accomplished anything. You're up 3-1 in the series. That's great. You haven't won yet. So they need to have the similar type of game, come out flying. You know the crowd's going to be there. Also, another thing I wanted to point it out, obviously, I had it on the top of my head earlier. I've been doing this all without Aatu Ratu as well.
Great point.
Yeah.
Go back those 40 games. I mean, he was in the NHL, and then he's barely played here in the playoffs. You're right. And when we talk about the Charlotte team waiting on its best players, like, they're there. They're healthy. They're in the lineup. And you're right. Like, Aatu Ratu at this level would be a top 2 center. He'd be a big-time penalty killer. We know face-offs and late game protecting leads and all that kind of stuff. And they're doing it without him. So, yeah, again, another good point by Irv tonight. I have to give him a raise here.
Many of those.
You're stepping aside, though, on Saturday.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
It was
commitment. I know.
Predetermined commitment, yes.
Well, we will push on, certainly, and Dave Hall is going to be back and joining us on Saturday, so looking forward to that. Dave out in Abbotsford tonight, getting to experience AHL playoff hockey for himself. So picked a good night to get out there and see the Abbotsford Canucks win, and as we said, they are 1 win away now. Have been grinding here for a while. 22 games, 5 rounds. It gets progressively more difficult, but I do think that they're getting better as this series goes along, and so we'll see what Charlotte throws at them. It may not be enough. And as we said, Abbotsford knows it wants no part of getting on a flight on Sunday and having to go back to Bojangles Arena. So it's right there. It's on a tee for them. But they do have to go out there and get it done. There were earlier rounds in these playoffs where 3 victories got you what you needed. That's not the case here in the semifinal or this final. So 3 wins for the Abbotsford Canucks. They need 4. And if they can get that 4th one on Saturday, it'll be party time. And we certainly will be breaking it all down on Rink Wide regardless of result. But, boy, it kind of feels like people are ready to get the party started. So looking forward to that one. Again, big night for Jonathan Lecker-Mackey. Archie Bains continuing to play well. Archie Silovs. And it's tough to single out guys. We do to the 3 stars. But another full team effort, I thought, top to bottom, from this Abbotsford Hockey Club. Team effort here as well. Jacob Lazar working hard behind the scenes as our executive producer. This may be it then for you, for Rink Wide, for this hockey season.
I hope you have a celebratory show on Saturday. I think the fans.
I'd love you to be here.
Yeah.
But if we're working on Monday, then
we're working on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. So let's hope that there's just one more game to go here. So you go have fun on the weekend, and we'll see where things go. But again, we'll be back here. We'll have a show for you, certainly. After Game 5, 6 o'clock is the start time. Note that. And bring it. Let's get it on. Let's see what happens. Canucks and the Checkers, 5th game of the AHL final. For Irf, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for hanging with us here again on this episode of Rink Wide.